Hello, Free Will Baptist Church planners. It's cold and rainy today in Nashville, but I'm excited to share with you this edition of our Tuesday training tidbit. I wanted to do a video presentation because the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today is very dear to my heart. It's a topic that I've done a lot of research on and really have thought a lot about. The last training tidbit I sent you 2 weeks ago was about common mistakes church plants make, and today I want to talk to you about common characteristics for successful church plants. These are obviously homemade, zero budget videos, but I hope that you can get the information, and when I'm sharing it, hopefully it means a little more than just reading it off an article that I would write. These topics, both last week or 2 weeks ago and today, are topics that we are going to be discussing more in our summit coming up next month in February here in Nashville. And I am super excited about the summit, and I hope that you are too. I truly believe it's going to be a great time of fellowship and learning. We're going to also do some fun things, and so I hope that you're making plans for your final plans to be here, and we're excited about hosting this and having you here. So with all that said, let's get into today's training tidbit. Myth tells us that King Midas had a special power to turn everything he touched into gold. Although we know that that's just a myth and it isn't true, have you ever noticed that some people do seem to have the Midas touch? Everything these people touch turns into gold. They can do stupid things and somehow everything turns out fine. I know some people like that, and you probably do too. Some church planners seem to have this special power. Everything they do seems to produce people. We've all read about them. They can have an outreach event and have 100 people saved, or they can plant a church in the most expensive market in the country, and 2 years later they own a debt-free 80-acre church facility with 150,000 square feet of pristine buildings. They have a staff of full-time staff of 20, and they average 5,000 people each weekend. They did the very same things that you do, but everything just seems to work better for them. Can you relate to that? We've all heard these stories. In fact, we've probably read books that were written by these guys and then wonder, why can't I do that? And although we may not agree with their tactics, and I am digging a little bit, I think you certainly know what I'm talking about. But in all honesty, why does it seem that some church plants just seem to work better than others? If your plant is struggling or you're not seeing much happening, does that mean that you aren't doing a good job? Does it mean that you aren't cut out to do this? What does it mean? Well, honestly, every situation is different. And to be truthful, maybe you aren't doing a good job. Maybe you aren't cut out for this, but that's not necessarily the case. And I've thought about this a lot, and I've been involved in a lot of different church plants over the years. Some have been way more successful than others, and I've learned some critical things from doing things the right way as well as doing things the wrong way. But I believe that successful church plants have several things in common that are necessary that church plants have in order to be successful. And the first thing is momentum. Webster's online dictionary defines momentum as the strength or force that allows something to continue or to grow stronger or faster as time passes. Momentum is a must for church plants. Too many times churches hit flat spots and momentum ceases. Once that brake is put on, then you have to apply a very intentional strategy in order to be able to restart it. At this point, Newton's first law of motion is in force. I'm not quoting Newton's law, but basically it says that an object at rest will remain at rest until an external force is applied to it. So how do you start or even restart momentum? Well, I believe there are several principles that can be applied in order to restart momentum if you've lost it or maybe never even had it. The first thing is to focus on evangelism. Since this is the greatest call of the church, it has to be the main focus of everything we do. The truth is many churches lose focus and sight on doing the things that are most important. Sometimes we get so caught up in doing church and keeping our head above water, and we let administrative tasks and counseling and visiting and preparing sermons and lessons and even Facebook dominate our time and rob us of focusing on giving the most important things the most important things that require our time. And to combat this, we have to make outreach a priority and lay aside whatever's necessary to carve out the time that we need to focus on evangelism. Next, we need to get as many people excited and involved as possible. We've talked about it before, but recruit. Sell your ideas and vision to other people and let them get involved. Excitement is absolutely essential to momentum. The more people you can get on board and excited, then the more momentum you're going to be able to create. The third thing is focus on your strengths. Find the one thing that you do best and highlight that. Our natural tendency is to work on our weakest things and to try to make it better, but that's not the thing we need to do in creating momentum. We need to focus on the things that we do well and celebrate those and try to get people excited about that. You certainly have to spend time on working on your weaknesses and the weak systems of your church, but focusing on strengths will help create momentum. The fourth thing is to celebrate wins. Make a big deal out of wins. Have people share short testimonies of life change, salvations, anything that will make people smile and see that something good is happening in your church plant. It may be small, but celebrate every win that you possibly can. The fifth thing is change something. Change is sometimes looked at as a bad thing, but a change can also create a different atmosphere and kickstart momentum. Be careful about that. Be strategic. Don't assassinate any sacred cows that will come back and cause you problems. But change something noticeable, like your stage decor or furniture in the foyer, or paint something a different color. Changes can just create excitement and get momentum started. But the last thing about momentum is do something. If you're not seeing momentum right now, then you'll never see it until you do something. Remember Newton's first law? Your plant will remain at rest, if it's at rest, until you apply some outside force to it. So you've got to do something to get the ball rolling. The second critical thing that successful church plants have is critical mass. Critical mass refers to the number of people necessary at an event in order for the attendees to feel like there's enough people there to make it believable. How would you feel if you received a mailer advertising some great product that would revolutionize your life? All you have to do is attend a one-day free training seminar that will teach you all the how-to principles to put you on your way to great fortune and success in your life. The problem is when you get to the free seminar, there's 8 people in a convention hall that seats 3,000. It just wouldn't feel believable. You probably would leave without even hearing the sales pitch. But what would happen if you got there and there were 3,000 other people that showed up? You'd be excited to find a seat and to hear what the speaker had to say. A lot is to be said about critical mass. And many churches struggle from the beginning because they don't have critical mass. And one mistake that I believe we've made in our movement many times over and over again is launching too early and not having critical mass. Well, if you've already launched, then you certainly, you don't get a mulligan and a do-over. So what do? Well, the short answer is you need to get more people. And I know that's easier said than done, but that's why we need to have outreach as our main focus, reaching more people, which will add to our numbers, which are warm bodies, which fill up rooms. But in the meantime, what do? Well, here's just a few suggestions. The first thing is reduce the amount of seating. If you currently meet in a church worship center that has a lot of empty pews, consider getting rid of the pews and use chairs. Set them up in a creative way that makes the room look fuller, or even spread the pews out and get rid of some of them, or change the design or something, the arrangement, so that it looks fuller. Another option would be to move to a smaller room. You need to be careful with this because, again, the purpose is to make what you're doing feel believable. And if it's a worship service, then it needs to feel like a worship service. Secondly, paint the room a darker, warmer color. Darker, warmer colors just feel better to people, and it doesn't feel as cold and sterile. Thirdly, fill large empty spaces with meaningful furniture. Set up stations or areas such as a communion area or a prayer area in your sanctuary, so that there's not just endless empty pews. The fourth thing is divide up the room for multiple uses, such as a larger area for the Sunday morning worship and then a smaller area for Wednesday night or Sunday school class. You can use pipe and drape or some kind of freestanding office dividers to create these different spaces. The next thing is dim the lights. Low lighting creates a cozier atmosphere and makes people feel more at ease. Next, play upbeat music. Silence when you enter a room can be deafening, so just play upbeat music that fits the style of your church, so that when people walk in, it's not just quiet. They can feel like something's happening even before the service begins. Start out with as many bodies as possible. If you have a children's church, keep the children in the auditorium long enough to get everyone in there, and then dismiss them. The more bodies that you start out with, the better. Be careful about distractions and how you dismiss the children, but you understand what I'm saying. The next thing is to just teach your people to move around in the sanctuary before service starts and not just go in and sit down. Movement creates excitement. Also invite temporary guests. What I mean by that is recruit Christians who have a heart for church planting to come to your church for a specified period of time, such as 3 to 6 months, especially if there's other Free Will Baptist churches in your area that within driving distance. Maybe you can encourage people to come and join you for a Sunday morning service for a while or whatever. This will give your team time to get momentum going and to recruit new people. And then the last part of that is just recruiting new people. Continue to meet with a lot of different people. Try to build your team. Try to just encourage people one-on-one to come and be a part of what you're doing there, and help create that critical mass with bodies in your building. And then the last thing is God's timing. The truth is sometimes we can do all the right things and still not see the results that we want to see. We have to learn to trust God and to wait on His timing. Be assured, God is at work. Be faithful to pray and fast and work hard, but ultimately the results belong to the Lord. Let's face it, some churches are just going to do better than others numerically. Some church plants will go self-supporting faster than others. Some planters and churches will seem to have the Midas touch, but we have to remember that the only one that really has the Midas touch is God, and He will bless us in His timing. Remember 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 5 through 7, and I'll close with this. Who then is Paul, and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom ye believed, even as the Lord gave to every man? I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase.